Hi folks, this is all the fruit, and here I have an ugly fruit. Yeah, a fruit so ugly, it's been called ugly. A fruit only a mother could love. Well, its fathers definitely didn't love it because they gave it the name ugly. Well, it took them 13 years to come up with a name for this fruit, so maybe at the end they just didn't care so much. Quite a rare fruit in German supermarkets, and quite an expensive one. Costs usually about 2 to 3 euros per piece, not per kilo. So, who would pay prime money for such an ugly fruit? Well, first let's see where it comes from. Like most citrus fruit, this is a hybrid of very few parent species. And in the case of the ugly, people cannot really decide what the parents are. Well, what is certain, it was discovered in Jamaica in 1917, so over 100 years ago. In Jamaica at this time, there were experiments, crossbreeding experiments with grapefruits, tangerines and oranges. And some say, yeah, this is a grapefruit, tangerine, orange hybrid. Others say it's a grapefruit, mandarin hybrid. Well, this would technically be the same since tangerines and oranges are basically pomelo, mandarin hybrids themselves. Sorry. And also the grapefruit is a pomelo, mandarin hybrid, so nobody seems to know exactly how this thing came to be. Sounds quite familiar when it's about ugly children. Nobody wants to be the parent. Well, on some websites it says there were breeding experiments. On other sites it says it was discovered. Well, it was discovered can mean a lot of things. It can mean it was discovered in the wild, or more probably, it was discovered from a seedling plant in somebody's garden. A lot of people just plant seeds from citrus fruit they eat and then use the usually quite vigorous young trees as rootstock for some named varieties. Nobody seems to know how it came to be. Everybody agrees it was discovered in Jamaica in 1917, and it took them till 1930 to come up with this name ugly. Well, as a basically pomelo mandarin or grapefruit mandarin hybrid, this thing is officially classified as a tangelo, Citrus X tangelo. Tangelos are among the tastiest citrus fruit. The first time I tried tangelos, I picked them at the campus of Arizona State University. They were beautiful and they were extremely tasty. But the only time I ate an ugly, it was just a boring sour citrus fruit. Yeah, it is ugly. It can be quite smooth and it can be quite bumpy. Oops, this one is a bit more on the smooth side. When ripe, it doesn't exhibit the beautiful orange color of many citrus fruit, but it's kind of yellowish with a bit of green. However, when I bought this, all the other uglies in the box were pretty much grass green. So, yeah. Of course, they were picked extremely underripe. I mean, with such fruit which don't need to show any specific color to show you that they are ripe, or where it's not so well known, they were often picked even more underripe than fruit which need to exhibit this color. Imagine people would pick green cherries or green strawberries. Nobody would buy them. But with stuff like that, yeah, it works rather well. Or also you can name stuff. Like this plum, green red, and people think, oh, green is natural, nah. But then when you see a ripe green red plum, suddenly it's a lot more red and a lot less green. Well, same with this uglies. I know that some tangelos need to be bright orange to be ripe. Ugly is like yellowish with green spots, a little bit like this here. So yeah, with this here I might have a slightly better chance for it to be ripe than the other one. So why do people pay prime buck for this stuff? I paid €1.70, €1.80 for this. This is a little bit on the cheap side for an ugly. But for that money, right now, I can get about a kilogram of really tasty mandarins or tangerines in the supermarkets. So why pay so much money for such an ugly fruit? Well, yeah, in the tropics a lot of the oranges don't get really orange. The bright colors usually are being produced by cold or frost. You can also produce them by chemical means, but on many markets in the tropics you see a lot of mandarins and oranges and limes which are not orange or yellow at all. However, those people in the tropics, they like the imported Chinese stuff, which is artificially being made to be bright orange. Well, here now the expensive ugly. As I said, my only ugly experience in my life was quite disappointing, just a boring sour citrus fruit. But people say, or write on the internet, I mean they want to sell the fruit, that it's so juicy and so flavorful and so sweet and interesting that it's really worth the price. Let's put it to the test. It is juicy, but at the same time it is dry. It is juicy because, as you can see, the juice already comes out in droplets when I'm trying to open it. But at the same time, it feels kind of dry. The flavor is interesting. Well, it reminds me a bit of tropical pomelo. Very, very weak, very mild flavor. Nothing special. Nothing really exciting like a lot of crazy citruses I tried recently. I just remember that I haven't uploaded most of those citrus videos. Okay. Most segments are quite juicy. I guess the first one I got that was a little bit dryish. There was something wrong with it. Well, the flavor is a bit different from other stuff, but it's a bit different in the respect that there is almost no flavor or a very mild flavor. So when I say, yeah, it has a specific flavor, I don't mean it in a good way. I also don't mean it in a bad way. Yeah, it's a boring, very mild. It reminds of a boring mandarin. And even the flavor, sometimes those boring kind of dryish, overripe mandarins, there is some strange additional flavor, but it's not like a flavorful mandarin. There's just a trace of mandarin flavor. So basically, yeah, quite tasteless, like some tropical tangelos and other tropical citrus. Quite tasteless and quite boring. Yeah. Less sour than the first ugly I tried, but no, definitely, even if it was the same price per kilo as normal mandarins, I would prefer normal mandarins. Maybe I would buy it from time to time if it was the same price or cheaper than good mandarins. But really, yeah, my second encounter with the ugly, didn't convince me at all. There are a lot of citrus I tried in the last weeks which were so unique I would pay prime money to get them here in Germany, and I would eat them on special occasions, but this is not one of them. There are so many interesting citruses they just don't import here, but from time to time they import the ugly. So folks, yeah, please tell me about your experience with the ugly. Maybe you had a better experience, maybe you had a better fruit, maybe you tried it in a country where it's being grown. Tell me why it's so expensive. Tell me why people import the ugly here and not stuff like there are some citrons with very tasty edible rind. There is the konatsu, or the some really crazy orange and grapefruit varieties or hybrids of both, which would be much more interesting than this ugly. I guess a lot of people maybe just buy it because of the name and then give it as a present to ugly people and crack some joke or whatever. Tell me, folks, have you ever had an ugly which was worth the money? What does ugly fruit taste when there is a real interesting flavor to it? Tell me your experience with the ugly. Apart from that, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the supermarkets and shops of Germany. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.